Friends, I'm absolutely overjoyed and honored to welcome a very special guest live with us today, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine. It is very important to know that thanks to her incredible hard work and dedication throughout her career, she is the reason why we celebrate Black History Month in Canada today.
Thank you, Alicia, for this introduction. Any program with the word youth in it that I am invited to, I feel honored, because as an 85-year-old woman, to think that I have something to contribute to the youth does me honor.
You've said that Black history is not just for Black people. Black history is Canadian history. How did you come about with this idea? How was it born, and how was it accepted by other politicians and the public at the time?
Alicia, that's a long story, because I'd have to go back to the fact that I was born in Happy Hill, St. George's, Grenada, that I came to Canada in 1960, that the world in Canada in terms of social justice issues were different than they are today, that we did not have the recognition. I see the wonderful dancers just presented and the programs just presented. And I keep thinking, my goodness, that we have moved so far in terms of our acknowledgement or sensitivity. When I first came, couldn't find the right powder for the face or the right stockings for the feet, etc. And so now I think we're moving in a good direction. It's important for me to say that I was an educator and that I was teaching social studies, saw nothing in the books about Indigenous peoples, about treaties, about land claims, saw nothing about people from the African Canadian community. And so when the opportunity came to get that motion forward, it was a difficult time, because at the time the House of Commons was focused on trade issues, on debt and deficit. Two new parties in the House at the time, the Reform Party and the Bloc Québécois. And I had to stand up to ask for consent to look at this social justice issues, this issue of our presence in the Canadian mosaic, because we had gone out saying that we were multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious. And so how is that reflected? And so I went from member to member, 305 members, asking for consent to that motion, because I wanted unanimous consent. And we did get this despite a number of provocative things that were said to me, as you would expect, in jocular fashion. You want February, who's gonna want March? Or you want Black history? Hey, Augustine, when are we gonna get white history, etc.? And so the point that you made in your in the question, that Black history is Canadian history. We cannot talk about Canadian history in a general sense without talking about our Indigenous people's history or African Canadian people's history, the coming of immigrant groups and their contribution to Canadian society. And so this is not, Black history is not just for Black people. Black history is Canadian history and must be told in the sense of, and be written and be inclusive and be recognized as Canadian history.